Okay guys, so at this point, I welcome you to my page, and for today, I'm going to talk about something that is very close to my professional practice and to my line of expertise. At the same time, hindi lang naman to specific to where I am working right now or kung ano yung field of practice na ginagawa ko. But this is also applicable to any organization, any institution or companies that actually nurture and put premium to its human capital or its human resource, and at the same time yung needs, specific needs ng human resource na yon, or yung sabi natin employees or personnel, in terms of the learning and development. So this will not be too long na video clip, but I'll do my best that even though the amount of time that we will be spending, you would be learning something out of this topic. So I'm going to talk about three things. Let's talk about the human capital or the human health resource, kung saan ako specifically nag-work ngayon. Then let's talk about learning development. Ano yung learning and development? Para saan yon? Ano ang mga examples ng mga learning and development? And third would be, let's try to put a case scenario as regards to the human capital and the learning and development. Then tingnan natin kung ano yung mga possible repercussions or impact nito ng dalawang variables na to when we talk about the specific impact or effect to the organization where we are being nurtured as a worker, as an employee. So let's start with the human capital. Ano ba yung human capital? So the terms are evolving actually, no. Human resource, human capital, workforce, those things are, or those terminologies are just synonymous. It's just that in time nag-transition or nag-evolve yung terminologies na ginagamit, no. And that's a normal phase na kung saan andyan tayo ngayon, because things that are being learned and structured or developed years ago may actually evolve and be called something else as time passes by. But nevertheless, the concept remains the same as regards to the foreground, with the refinement and enhancement on the specific indicators or specific facets or areas na unique sa mga context na yon. So in this case, so when we talk about the human capital, so ikaw yan, as a workforce, as an employee, human capital ka. Yung kasamaan mo sa trabaho, yung colleague mo, ay mga examples yon ng human capital. So ibig sabihin, the human capital ay lahat-lahat from the rank and file up to the top management. Collectively, those things are considered human capital because these are being referred to people or persons or individuals working interdependently inside an organization, and these people are unique individuals with diversities and differences as regards to characteristics, profile, personalities, skill sets, etc. But nevertheless, those diversities that you encounter in an organization, when you put them together as an orchestra or in conglomeration, then you have the expertise and at the same time the right approaches in ensuring that those differences or diversities among your human resource are being managed, handled, honed, developed, and nurtured appropriately and accordingly. Sigurado yun, your organization will really flourish and will really achieve its vision and mission, and even impact significantly either in the society or the entirety or total societal impact ika man. So yun. So how about the learning and development? So na-mention ko kanina that we employees ay may mga specific needs in the organization. And when you talk about those needs, isa doon ay yung learning and development na tinatawag, or yung L&D. It can refer to trainings, orientation, programs for enhancement of skills, under the topics of communication, documentation, how you deal with the customers, how you handle complaints, how you ensure that you hone and you structure a specific program for identified personalities or individuals in the organization, wherein you target the development of specific core competencies that would be translated into specific outcomes, and of course would impact significantly the performance of the organization, and more than that, performance of the organization, and at the same time the degree of confidence, satisfaction, and engagement, and motivation or inspiration that the human capital or the employees would be able to achieve given those programs being laid down before them or each of them. So now, we have discussed already what's human capital, we have discussed what learning and development. Oh, by the way, in learning and development, since this is a continual process, hindi nagsastop yan. Hindi ibig sabihin that you achieve or acquire the specific competency, hanggang doon na yun. It has to be enhanced, developed, it has to be monitored, assessed, reassessed, evaluated, until such time that you continue to gain a higher degree of competency on a specific skill set, and at the same time, you develop another skill set, and you try to ensure that those two skill sets that you have developed would be integrated into you as a human capital, as a human resource, in such a way that it improves or it enhances your performance in your organization. So that's it for learning and development. Now, the core of this video would be about, so what then with the human health resource or human capital or human resource and the learning and development. So it's very simple. According to research, and this is according to evidence, the more that you develop, enhance, or you provide learning and development activities to your employees or to your human resource, given the accurate and appropriate methodologies and approaches all throughout the cycle of the learning and development, it guarantees positive outcomes to the achievement of the organization's objectives, goals, vision, and mission. So tested and proven yan. So easier said than done. Now, what's the real scenario? So I would like to cite one specific instance. And this specific instance or scenario may not be my actual experience. It can be a situation that I heard from colleagues in other organizations. It can be something else that I have read or come across via social media or internet or journals, articles, or research papers. Or it can also be my own experience in various organizations that I have joined with. So, but before moving forward, I've been into various organizations already, and that is why when we talk about learning and development, I have already witnessed and seen what specific programs are there being laid down for employees, and how these programs are being implemented and put into action, and at the same time how these programs are being evaluated vis-a-vis evaluation of the human resource or the employees, and contrast those things and compare it as regards to the achievement of the organization's outcomes. So yun yun. So now here is the scenario. Now let's say you are a manager and you are being given a novice, sabi natin baguhan, bagong employee to work with you under your supervision, and with that supervision you are tasked to develop a program kung wala pa, but if meron ng program, then you have to execute that program to that newly hired or employed human capital ninyo or employee ninyo. Now, the employee passed and met all the requirements, qualifications being set before him or her, the minimum requirements required, then here comes the time when the person is being hired in your organization and deployed in your specific unit. So now the accountability, or rather the responsibility rather, of developing and ensuring that you onboard the person appropriately in the kind of work that he or she is about to venture on is actually dependent on you as a manager. So yun, let's say, fast forward tayo. Na-run mo yung program, na-execute siya, then at the end of the, let's say, a month or 2 or 3 months, in-evaluate mo yung bata, yung bagong employee, then it appeared that parang hindi ganun ka-significant yung development or improvement niya. So, that's a big question. Bakit kaya ganun? Given the programs na in-implement mo, bakit hindi niya fully na-achieve yung expected outcome ng supposedly training program or onboarding program na binigay mo sa kanya? So, multifactorial yan. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang isa yung rason kung bakit nangyayari yan. So, I want to make it clear that what I'm going to share to you right now is just one of the factors that can be considered. But I'll do my best to include or to cite other factors why such things are happening in the present practice. So now, going back, yun nga, bakit hindi siya na-achieve given the programs that you have executed? So, one thing would that be the program itself. The program itself needs perhaps to be revisited, re-evaluated, re-examined as regards to its content, methodologies, approaches, and so on and so forth. Baka hindi relevant or hindi akma yung content ng program na dinevelop mo para sa isang employee or bata na magjo-join ng organization mo or ng company mo. So, another reason would be the person running the program, the training program. Pwedeng maganda yung programa, maganda yung topics included or involved, maganda yung content niya, relevant to the present expectation as per job description ng isang employee or isang bagong employed na staff na i-assign sa area mo. So, another reason would probably be the one who executes the training, or let's say na lang trainer or a preceptor or a mentor or coach or kung ano pang terminologies na related doon. Maybe doon. Kaya kailangan i-re-evaluate yun. Kung okay yung program, how about the one running the program? So that's second. And I think one last thing would be the employee or the person himself or herself. Baka naman maganda yung program, solid, encompassing as regards to its content. Pwedeng okay din or maganda yung performance ng preceptor or trainer mo na execute niya lahat ng mga aspects or bagay na kailangan i-execute. Pero baka problema talaga is the person himself or herself. So kanina minention ko na the person was able to achieve the minimum requirements set before him or her for him or her to be deployed or to be hired or accepted in your organization. But again, those are just preliminaries. No? Those are just a tip of an iceberg when you deal with a person who just joined your organization. So those areas na kinover during the hiring or recruitment selection may not be necessarily the totality of the package of the individual. Magpo-provide lang siya ng mga tip of an iceberg or ng mga areas na pwede mo i-highlight, but it's not going to be the totality of getting to know the person or individual. Nalalaman mo na lang yung performance ng isang bata, ng isang employee, kung gaano pa talaga siya kagaling or how he or she excels in the performance of her daily task pag nasa actual field or arena na talaga siya, sa actual battleground or battlefield, ika nga. Doon mo yun makikita kasi it would be a combination of the person's totality. Lahat ng aspect ng tao makikita mo na doon in the actual dispense or execution of the day-to-day task or activities being set before him or her. So yun, it can be the program, it can be the person running the program, or it can be the person himself or herself. Now, another let's dig deeper. Now, let's say the scenario is something like this. Ni-run mo yung program, natapos yung program, at the end of the program, parang flank pa rin yung bata. Then, of course, kailangan mong mag-isip kung anong kailangan mong gawin. The next question there would be, what are you going to do next? Are you going to re-enroll the person to an enhancement program? Then you have to re-evaluate him or her kung kumusta yung progress niya, or basta-basta mo na lang i-let go yung tao na yon, and you proceeded to your immediate superior or supervisor, telling him or her na parang I think end of the line na, ginawa na lahat, but then the person actually ay hindi talaga nagpe-perform, hindi niya talaga na-achieve yung mga expected na kailangan i-deliver. So ibang context ito, because now it's about going towards the next step ng process. So na-run mo na yung program, na-complete yung program, let's say sabihin natin 3 months yun, but then at the end of 3 months nakita mo na parang medyo hilaw, hindi niya fully na-achieve. And let's say that the root cause or the main reason behind that would be the person himself or herself, not the program, not the preceptor, but it's the person himself or herself. So now the question is, ano na yung next na gagawin mo? Is it to re-enroll or to install another program, then enhancement program, then introduce the employee or the person to that new program, or you surrender, you succumb, you run to your immediate head, immediate superior or supervisor, then say, hindi ko na kaya, tapos na to. Ginawa ko na yung lahat sa training program, and it appears na parang nagpa-flank siya. So ibigay ko na siya sa'yo, then kayo na yung bahala kung ano yung next na gagawin ninyo. So, given those two options, ano yung gagawin nyo doon? Now, there are leaders or managers who would resort into doing number 1. Ibig sabihin, re-enroll, i-enhance, re-evaluate, saka magde-decide. And at the same time, meron din namang mga managers or leaders na ang gagawin ay totally, it's the end of everything. Tapos na, ayoko na, na-run ko na yung program, na-evaluate ko na, and it appeared na parang hindi niya kaya. Hindi niya na-pass or na-surpass yung mga specific outcomes na kailangan i-deliver or i-meet niya. Kaya i-return ko na siya sa'yo, then it's up for you if what would be the next step that you would be instituting as regards to the performance of the person or the individual. So yun. Let's concentrate on the second option. Yung you give up, then you surrender the person to your boss or to your immediate head or superior, then you let your superior do again another intervention, and you pass it on to another unit or another area na kung saan i-re-evaluate naman siya doon, mag-onboard na naman siya another program, then he or she will be up for evaluation. So yun, my point there would that be, if you have the program, if you have a trained professional or person running the program, then it is an anticipation that with the proper execution of the first 2 items that I have mentioned, mag-i-impact yan in terms of an outcome sa the person himself or herself. But in this case, hindi niya na-fulfill because something might be wrong with this person, with the employee. So, ano na yung next na gagawin mo? Based on the things that have happened in my professional practice, I always do my best to not really concentrate on the person himself or herself as the ulterior reason bakit hindi niya na fulfill ito. Most probably, babalikan ko pa rin yung program, and at the same time the one who ran the program rather. Baka doon yung kailang tutukan. baka napaka-safe yung pag-execute to the point na hindi nag-level up or nag-leverage or nag-scale up in such a way na yung naibigay or na-deliver na na specification or activities or let's say tasks sa isang employee ay yung tipong average execution. Kung ano yung nasa black and white, yun na yun. Wala nang whatsoever. Hindi nag-level up, hindi nag-scale up, or walang something special, ika nga, na ginamit or nilagay doon para i-enhance yung bata. So, my dear friends, watching this video right now, kung andito pa kayo hanggang 20 minutes na, 21 minutes na, before we put the burden to the person himself or herself, tingnan natin yung first two factors or first two components, areas na minention ko. The program and the person running the program. Baka doon nagkakaproblema. Minsan, hindi masyadong maganda yung program, pero pag maganda, high caliber yung nagra-run ng program, kayang-kaya niyan i-cover yung deficiencies or defects na present sa program. Pag meron ka namang program, mahina yung trainer mo, mahina yung preceptor mo, naku, delikado yan. Paano na lang yung outcome na mapupunta sa employee? See? Regardless if the employee or the person na tina-train or in-onboard mo ay, let's say, excellent na siya, talagang as compared to other employees or newbies, nagle-level up siya because parang cream of the crop siya. Yan, okay din yon kasi advance yung knowledge and the development ng isang bata. But it would still be critical to consider the second component, which is the one running the program. So, if I am your boss and that thing happens, rather than scrutinizing deeply as regards to the program design, I would still look more into the execution of the program being facilitated, overseen, and executed by the trainer or the preceptor. So, doon ako magko-concentrate. Ano bang ginawa? How did you run the program? What specific actions or let's say extra mile have you done to ensure that given the existing or the present performance of the individual, ano yung specific pa rin na ginawa mo to address before mag-reach ang terminal end ng program itself? See? So, this thing, the third area or the third component could have been aborted if the first two components succeeded in ensuring that the program and at the same time the one running the program have actually done their parts in addressing the needs or the specific needs of the individual or the person. So yun. To all managers na nanonood ngayon, or let's say kahit hindi ka naman manager, or let's say sabihin na lang natin you are a rank and file employee, kailangan nating obserbahan yung pag-develop ng isang employee na part ng organization mo. Dapat alamin kung anong program na nag-exist, alamin kung sino yung nagra-run ng program, ano yung mga competencies ng nagra-run ng program, and at the same time, these two factors or two components that I have mentioned would address. These two things are supposed to address the diversity and the differences among learners or let's say newbies who are aspiring to become part of our or your organization. So yun, baka yung problema ay ang nagrara ng program. Sumuko siya because perhaps he or she is a preceptor or a trainer that also needs to be developed or enhanced. Baka may specific needs din yung person na nagrara ng program na kailangan niyang i-meet or i-achieve so that the execution as a facilitator ng program would be geared towards the achievement of the actual expected outcomes to the employee, ika nga, or to the new member of the employee. So yun, so I hope that ends my discussion as regards to the human capital, the learning and development, and the programs. and relationship, and at the same time the the impact or the outcomes that could happen to the organization if the two things that I have mentioned would not go into a sort of an alignment or a convergence ika nga ng dalawang factors na yun. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching this recording. So 25 minutes na siya, baka going 26 na. So thank you for staying with me, and I hope this would provide insights and areas for you to ponder as we move along when we talk about the human capital, the programs that we have for learning and development, and of course, the impact or the outcomes to the organization as one of the ulterior stakeholder, one of the most important factor to be considered when we talk about outcomes, be it performance or organizational outcomes. Thank you, and see you again next time.